example of osmosis in action. And we learn about cellular respiration, and then we learn about muscles, because that's a direct example of taking this small scale biological concept, and then how is it actually applied and used in the larger context of the body or of an organism. So that's generally how the course is taught, much more thematically in that they learn the smaller level concept, and then how does it apply to something bigger at the same time. So a unit test would incorporate everything we learned about osmosis and cell membranes and all that sort of stuff, and the excretory system, and at the same time. So that would all be tested together. So unit tests, we've only had 5 so far this year. So they're big. They're larger tests, which is much more similar to what you're going to end up getting in college when you have 1 midterm and 1 final. That's it. So it's not that drastic yet, but it's moving along those ways that they're really going to have to pull all this information together and really get a synthesis of what's going on. And I think it's a challenge to start learning how to take these smaller concepts and not just compartmentalize everything for biology. This really is an interaction of all these concepts together, and so that's sort of what the focus is with teaching it thematically, and also having these unit tests that bring a lot of information together at the same time to try and get that broader thinking going on.
So from 8th grade science to AC Bio, is it like a huge leap in difficulty, or does it progressively get harder?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
It is. At the beginning, it is.
I would say you guys are all here because you're probably great students, and you're probably really high achieving students. And so, as they sort of alluded to before, in middle school, you could probably just sit and lecture and listen and get an A, because you guys are smart kids, and so you're picking up a lot just listening. You can't do that in this class. It's not enough. So it's sort of a shock the first month or 2, and I think a lot of kids get really scared and freaked out and, oh my God, because you may not have developed good study skills yet because you didn't really have to. So you're having to learn all of these things that maybe other kids had to cope with earlier and pick up like what works best for me for studying and how do I take notes, where that wasn't a problem for you before. So a lot of students, it's a big challenge in the beginning, but then I think that you get sort of into a groove and you figure out how it works, and you get used to this sort of testing style and the types of questions that are getting asked of you and the type of thinking that it's really pushing, and it forces you to learn some new note-taking study strategies.
Yeah, if I might chime in, as a junior we have multiple APs, and so that's basically what you're going to experience in a lot of AP courses as you go along as well. AP language, AP US history. There's always going to be an initial jump, but then afterwards it's a learning curve. It's a sharp learning curve, but you'll get it eventually.
So the logistical note-taking question, you guys talk about how critical that is. How are your feelings on bringing in laptops or something if handwriting is completely illegible? Are people doing that now?
I don't see people bringing laptops, but I do know people that do the notes at home, and then they use laptops and computers.
I had one student last year who had, not in actually AC Bio, but in a radio class that had an iPad, and he would take his notes on that, and I'm totally fine with that. Obviously, if I catch them doing other things, then we'd have a discussion. But most of the note-taking from the text is at home, but if they wanted to supplement that, during my lectures with the laptop, that's totally fine. I'm okay with that. And they can type their notes in. I don't require like X number of pages of notes. That's up to you to figure out, right? This is your learning style. You have to figure out what works for you. I'm looking that you read it, and you took some notes, and you thought through it. If you don't do well on the reading quizzes, or you're not following what I'm saying in lecture, then you have to take that as a personal note. Okay, I didn't go in depth enough with my notes, or I didn't read through that in detail enough. And so you really got to watch yourself and pay attention to how you're doing with your own learning and adjust. And come talk to me about it, and we can talk through it, but you have to recognize it in yourself. And that's a really important part for AC Bio students, I think, is recognizing when you don't get it and when to get help and those sorts of things. Yeah.
Are any of you doing a varsity sport, or do you know anyone in particular who's doing a varsity sport at any time?
Yes. I knew somebody who's on varsity for cross country. Cross country is cross country, so it's pretty much the same. The practice is pretty similar. But I'm not so sure but for other sports, but I do know that occasionally you're going to have to like skip a day, skip a weekend because you have to go to a meet because of that.
There are a a lot of AC Bio students that have multiple extracurricular activities, not only school sports, but they are taking like 3 other languages outside of school, and they dance and they play all these instruments, and it's amazing when I talk to them. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. And so it's totally possible if you have a lot of extracurricular activities, but you do have to make the class a priority as well. Like, time management comes down to everything. So it's really, really important, and if you just make sure you're thinking about that, an hour a night, actually budget out. What's your time? What are you doing each night? Where are you? Do you have an hour a night to do homework? Think about it. So if you can fit it in, then you can fit it in, but you really got to think about it.
Extracurricular activities, whatever they may be, if there's sports or even like advanced math classes or taking speech and debate, are always going to be time constraints. But I myself, coming into freshman year, was not the best time manager. But what AC Bio forces you to do is to learn those time management skills and become better at managing your time. And so by the time the first few months have gone through, you understand how to manage your time better, and that helps you through getting through the rest of the year. But it's also a really important skill for school and later life also, being able to manage your time. And I think this class, more than any other class, teaches you to do that really well.
How much easier and less time does regular biology take than this class?
I would say a lot less. A lot less.
So on a nightly basis?
On a nightly basis, I would say, because I teach both, I would say my regular biology, depending upon their skill level, homework can range anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. But I don't give homework every night. I probably give homework 3 to 4 nights a week. And I try and avoid weekend homework. And I don't specifically assign weekend homework for them, but I set deadlines like, in 2 weeks, the notes for this chapter are due, and in 3 weeks, the notes for that chapter are due. So it's up to you to figure out, okay, did you do it all in one night, or did you space it out a little bit? So usually they have their deadlines pretty far in advance, and they know what's coming up. And so they, eventually start to use their time a little bit better to do portions, or if they finish one and they have some time, they'll start working on the next one. But regular biology, it's definitely a lot less. The labs are much less intense, not nearly as fun. AC Bio is just, if you like biology or you like science, it is such a fun class because we get to do so many cool things. Everybody's really into it, so we can have some great discussions. I can, bring in an article of something they just discovered or found, and we can talk about it for a period because everybody's going to be into it, and it can be fun. It's a lot of...
And you can't do that kind of stuff in your regular class.
Not that I don't do it, but there's such a dynamic range within regular biology that depending on the topic, half the kids are just going to zone out and not want to pay attention because they're just doing it to graduate. Whereas, AC Bio kids, usually they're really into science, they're into biology, they're wanting to pursue more science, and so they're just soaking everything up. So I try and make my regular biology fun too, but it's just a different dynamic of students. These are the really motivated, pushing kids. And I have a much wider range in regular biology, so the class is just, it's got to run differently.
Do you use a different textbook for regular?
Yeah, the regular biology textbook is the one that's under your seat if you wanted to pick at that or compare them later.
For you guys, did any of you feel, there are some like big challenges in this class? If there's any, what they are? The challenges.
Science fair is definitely very difficult. Not only because it's a lot of work, but when you split up the work, you have to double check that they're working on it. You have to double check that it's the way you want it, and then you have to put it all together. And then something goes wrong. You're like, what am I going to do? The deadline's so close. It's definitely very stressful. And science fair, although that's one of the best parts of it, that's one of the most fun parts of it. That's only when you look back. When you're in the moment,
So true.
it's a little bit different.
Yeah, don't ask him because he hasn't had the full science fair experience yet. Yeah. He's in the middle of it, although he just finished everything.
But did any of you at the same time also participate in other competitions and then feel the conflict or maybe being conflicts or no conflicts at all?
Other science fair competitions or just other?
Like a math competition, other subject, like a math competition, other competitions.
I'm
Yeah,
highly
speech and
competitive on the school speech and debate team, so that takes up a lot of my time. But like I've alluded to earlier, time management is one really important thing that you learn in this class. And from this class, you learn that like the lab report due Wednesday, Tuesday night should not be the time you're starting working on that, but that you learn to prioritize, you learn to figure out what needs to be done now, what's important and due soon, what can wait, and you learn how to space things out to make sure that you can fit in everything you want to do within a certain amount of time. And I think it's very possible to deal with other academic competitions or other advanced academic classes at the same time as this class. It just requires dedication and time management.
At the same time, let's not let all these challenges and things that we say deter you from taking the class. He mentioned the science fair, and yes, it is a lot of work. But honestly, it depends on the individual. If you want to take it to the next level and to research really in depth and spend a lot of time in your project, that's up to you. But if you're one of those students saying, hey, this is just part of one of the requirements that I need to finish for my class, then maybe you'll do a simpler project with less time that you need to spend on.
Oh, sorry, in the back.
Me. Alright, so the hardest challenge is probably getting enough sleep.
There is a current student, by the way.
So, usually when you do a bunch of extracurricular stuff, the thing that gets it the most is your sleep, and you still need to emphasize on that. So,
What time do you go to bed?
hopefully around 10.
Hopefully.
So especially when you have a lot of things going on, especially sports, because sports just wipe you out. It's mostly actually learning how to focus on your work and get it done very quickly, but also understanding it at the same time. I know other times people will say, hey, let's work for like a couple of minutes until our favorite show is on, let's work during the commercials. I don't really highly recommend that. I guess you could on the weekends if you really wanted to for some particular reason, but it's mostly a lot of time management. And like if you have a meet this Thursday like I do, you learn, hey, I have to do all my other work before this date. And if not, you that's when you stay up late.
So I'd like to just maybe take one or two more questions because I really want them to get off and head where they're going. So let's try and keep them maybe a little more focused if there's specific questions about the course. So we definitely know we need time management. Things are possible. Time management is definitely key.
So what was the grade distribution from the last reporting period? Is it like, is it supposed to focus on these and then?
Oh no, so I do not grade on a bell curve or anything like that. Whatever they earn, they earn. Most of my students end up with an A in the class. I don't know that A's and B's. I think I've only ever had like one C.
Yeah. You don't really hear about like anybody with like a C, D, or F. It's mostly around an A, maybe high B.
Okay.
So
They had to work for that though.
Yeah.
if the student was kind of thinking of taking AP biology later on, this class would still make sense, right? Like
Yes.
the course is different.
I'm
Oh,
currently,
it's definitely different.
yeah, I'm currently taking AP biology, and this class. It's a good preparation.
It's really good preparation for AP Bio, but it's also great preparation for any other AP or honors courses just in terms of the workload. Maybe one more question and then we can disperse, and if you have specific ones you can maybe come see me.
I would like to know the science fair project, how into this class, how important into the class, and what's the ratio like into this class? Like, I know definitely you spend quite much, time to do that science project, but it involves like, compare with the courses, the tested, and then the science project, how do they interact, how they weighted,
So in the spring, the science fair project is 10% of their grade. It's weighted to 10% of their grade. So it is a significant portion of their grade.
And they can do it in a group or individually.
All right, I really appreciate you guys coming out. If you have any other questions, you can definitely email me at any time. You can, hold on. please make sure that you sign in on an iPad at some point. I can put the URL up again if you didn't or you need to access that. MFurver at MB High or SRBUSD, it's all on that admission sheet. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask.
So I think I'd be might have scared the people who are considering taking speech and debate. It's actually very good, especially if you're going to be presenting your board. Speech and debate teaches you a lot, and I think around like half of our AC Bio class this year are all in speech and debate.
It does.
So,
It gives you great skills for actually presenting at the science fair. It's a great class overall. But.
yeah.
You said speech and debate is not offered in the zero period, is that?
For beginning, it should be.
Because that's where you apply for.
Well, you'll probably have to talk to the counseling officer about that. I didn't want to hold. Sorry, I just want to
Okay,
make sure that
that's
we
fine.
get everybody
I can talk to you
out on time.
after the meeting next week.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And if you have any other questions, just let me know or talk to me. Thank you.